I think we'll get started. It looks like those of you who are in this room are here for Tim's session. I'm happy to introduce Tim Schmidt from Rejuv Medical. I know Tim through the St. Cloud Chamber, and I was at the Waite Park Chamber meeting this was a couple months ago, and unfortunately the speaker didn't show up, so Tim impromptu gave this wonderful presentation, and so afterwards I was like, would you be willing to do this for the St. Cloud Area Volunteer Coordinators Workshop? It was fabulous. So somebody who can speak with nothing, I know he has a lot of good information. So he is a volunteer for us today, and so thank you for being here.
Well, thank you kindly. All right. Well, very good. Well, again, a lot of you already met me, but I'm Tim Schmidt. I'm with Rejuv Medical, and we do non-surgical orthopedics, and we specialize in medical fitness. And I'm the business development director there, so I kind of handle all the behind the scenes. Everything that goes on from web development, videography, photography, SEO, SEM, social media, emails, you get the idea. It's kind of like all the communications and all the stories kind of tied into one. That's what I do. But enough about my work. What I do at home is I'm a dad, and I love being a dad. I get choked up talking about it just because my family means the world to me. I've got a wife, been married for 6 years, and we have a child who's 5 years old. His name is Dominic. And we have a child who is going to be, well, he's two today. He's 2 today. And if you have a 2-year-old at home, you know exactly what I'm talking about. He is a little Tasmanian devil. He's into everything. He is everywhere at every moment. And then you've got his 5-year-old brother who, whispers little things into his ears about what he should be doing. And he does them exactly as he's told by his older brother. And great outcomes happen because of it. Then we've got Brielle. And Brielle is our baby girl. And she is 5 months old. And she is just a little honey. She needs to be held all the time. She is a handful, and I say that literally. Constantly needs to be held. And if she is not, she lets you know about it. And you end up holding her because you can't resist her little eyes telling you, please hold me, Daddy. So that's what happens. I was involved in the kind of how I got my inspiration into this talk, what's called G.A.P.S, is when I first started with Rejuv Medical. What I was doing is I had a really strong focus on business development. What was growing companies in the area? I was working for a company at the time, Restoration Professionals, selling carpet cleaning and doing some different things for them when it came to fire, water, and storm damage type situations, and just kind of getting myself out there. And what ended up happening was I was really finding out a lot of different things about businesses and what made businesses grow, what made businesses fail. And what I started to find was a really common thread amongst 4 areas. And I came up with an acronym called G.A.P.S. And I'll talk about what each one of those letters stands for in just a moment. I never stopped educating. At the time when I was in the Amway business for 7 years there was a gap of time when I was reading about a book a week, a book every 2 weeks, depending on the size of it. And then when I would read a book, I did it the Dale Carnegie style, where I'd read a chapter. Then I'd read the chapter again and highlight it, but then go into chapter 2. Then I'd go back to chapter 1 and go into chapter 2, but then read the highlights of chapter 1 and then read chapter 3. And so on and so forth until I progressed at 3 chapters at a time every week going through these books. So I studied the heck out of some of the greats like Zig Ziglar, Dale Carnegie, people like John Maxwell, Max Lucado, and some really amazing, inspirational people. I often say I was taught personally by those individuals just because I had listened to them so much that I felt like it was really a personal endeavor. But like any language, you got to continue to speak that language, and you got to continue to stay involved in it. So if I learned Spanish, but I stopped speaking Spanish, the only thing I would know how to say is "Donde está el baño?" and I would know how to get to the restroom, right? That's pretty much what happened to me. I learned Spanish. I was very fluent in Spanish for about 4.5 years, going up through college, and then stopped using it, and now I only know "Donde está el baño?" So with this now, I read about a book a week, and it's really a lot of fun. But G.A.P.S, growth, accommodation, position, and story, right? Growth, accommodation, position, and story. One of the first things I like to talk about is personal growth. And there's a reason why when I give you my introduction, I weigh very heavily on personal growth. It is the reason why I am where I am today. If I didn't grow personally, there's no way I'd be where I am today. And second, If you're not Christian, if you're not Catholic, if you're not whatever, I apologize to you lightly, because it's because of God that He's put me here in this position, and I'm super humble to what blessings He has put in my life. Personal growth, the big thing is that nature never stagnates. Either we're growing or we're dying, right? If you're a tree and you're a seed in the ground and you stop watering that seed, nothing happens, right? It just kind of shrivels up and it dies. At some point, the tree grows and it stops growing and it starts dying and it wilts away and it's dead. Same with a flower, right? You start to see the leaves kind of crinkling up. How do we stay young? How do we stay young? We continue to educate ourselves, keep our brains young. If I take a deep breath and I breathe out and I do that again and again, I'm going to work the little pieces of my lungs deep down, and those pieces of lungs are never going to die. But if I stop taking really deep breaths, we start to develop a shallow breath, and over time we can no longer use that part of our lungs. It's the same thing with our brains. To stay youthful, to stay, keep that zest in our life, we want to continue to breathe deep, grow personally. We want to have something that continues to move us. Some of you heard this a little bit too when I was talking earlier in my networking stuff, is that confidence is when we have something to teach. We earn confidence when we have something to teach, because we're constantly putting knowledge in our brain. And so now we have this confidence about us because we have competence. Competence breeds confidence. And arrogance is when you feel you have nothing to learn. When you feel you know it all, then you have nothing to learn. I already know in this room there are people that know more about networking, know more about business growth than I ever will know. And that's okay, because I want to meet you and I want to learn from you, truly. But it's humbling to be up here in front of you sharing what I know. Oftentimes in this area of personal growth too, I often see with other individuals who come to me and ask me questions about personal growth, like why they're not having this breakthrough. Oftentimes I see them standing at a door of opportunity that had once been shut. See, the window of opportunity or the door of opportunity often comes twice in our life. And when it opens, it's open for a moment in time. And in that continuum of time, all of a sudden the door closes. And so often do I see somebody standing at that door, cranking on the door, waiting, looking for when it's going to open up. Needless to say, it never opens up. And what's the saddest story is that the individual who goes to their death crying inside because they still have music left in them and that door never opened for them. Had have they known, if they would have personally grown, went out, met some people, shared some things with some individuals, that there was a skyway behind, if they would have went to the very door that they were hanging on to so dearly, they saw another door open, if they just would have had the audacity to let go. Because sometimes the very things that are holding us back in business are the very things we're holding on so dearly to. You ever notice that on Shark Tank? How many of you watch Shark Tank? Raise your hand. You've seen Shark Tank? Absolutely love Damon John. Think he is the coolest dude in the world. But anyway, sometimes I see those individuals go in there with what looks like a pretty good idea, but then you hear the margins, you hear the numbers, you hear everything, and everything stacks up against them. Now, granted, no one's ever mounted a statue or a monument for a critic, and I often believe in trying something, failing, adjusting, and trying and failing, and adjusting. But there comes a point in time when you fall on the floor, you need to take some time to clean the floor before you get back up. You know what I mean? So sometimes people hold on to that idea so tightly and they fail to look at the actual details around it and let go and go through the other door that's wide open, meet somebody who can give them direction, take them up the staircase and across the skyway and into the room in which they're trying to get into, right? There's always a way, but sometimes you have to take a detour. How many of you have ever read like a Choose Your Own Adventure book, right? Choose Your Own Adventure books. Goosebumps used to have them, different things. Okay, I'm kind of dating myself a little bit. I am young. But anyway, sometimes in these Choose Your Own Adventure books, it was like you get to the end of the page and it would say, if you would like to climb out of the pit of snakes on a ladder, turn to page 27. If you'd like to rescue the girl in the pit of snakes, turn to page 43. So you turn to page 43, or you turn to page 27 to go and climb the ladder out of there and hightail it out. Well, the ladder breaks and falls and turn to page 43. You know what I mean? So you still have to end up rescuing the girl anyway. Oftentimes in life this happens, but we look at that as a failure. Well, we climbed the ladder, it broke, now what? Well, go do what you're supposed to do in the first place. We all know what we're supposed to do, but sometimes we just think we can outsmart the situation and we say, I know what I'm supposed to do, but I'm going to go and do this instead. And then it falls and crashes and ends up right back where you were when you started, and you go, well, I still know what I need to do, but I still think there's one other spot that I can go. And it often happens that way. It's a spider monkey mentality, right? Y'all know what a spider monkey is? Some of you? Here's how they catch a spider monkey in Africa. The brain is actually really good to eat, apparently. I haven't had it, but apparently they catch them. Here's what they do. They hang a gourd in a tree, cut a little tiny hole, just enough for the monkey to slip his hand into, and then they put a little piece of melon inside. And when the monkey puts his hand in and he grabs the little piece of melon, his hand is stuck. But the spider monkey mentality says, do not let go of that melon to your death. And you can walk right up, and you can grab that spider monkey out of the tree, bop him on the head, and eat him. And that's what they do. Don't be a spider monkey, and don't hold on to something that you're supposed to let go of. So that's bullet point 1 on growth. Holy cats. This is deep. It's like time for a joke or something. My goodness. All right, bullet point 2, team growth, right? All right, let's get away from personal growth. I can tell I'm passionate about personal growth. All right, team growth, number 2, right? I just did hashtag team growth. When we understand each other, we program our minds to operate as one unit. Think of it as the old adage, you know, not everybody's the hand, not everybody's the foot, not everybody's the head. Sometimes you have 2 heads, it's a monster, right? So you kind of that old adage. Well, sometimes the very people that are in the organization who think they're a hand are really supposed to be the arm to steer the hand, right? I talked about this in my networking, right? So again, sometimes the person is supposed to be the talent or the influence to move the hand of the doer, but they need the encouragement to move the hand to be the doer. Some people are the head. Who's the support of the head? Well, the neck. The neck can steer the direction of the ship, right? They steer where the head is looking. So sometimes the head who's making all the decisions needs somebody in there to kind of give them a second opinion to steer the head of the direction of where they're going. Sometimes the body is the support, the spine is the back is the support. The people, the knees are flexible, they know when to give. The hands are the doers, the feet are the stability, they are the foundation, right? And so all these people kind of come together as one team that's moving a ship. Well, hey, Tim, what if I'm the only person in my volunteer organization and I'm trying to move all this? Well, guess what? You're the hand, the foot, the teeth. You got it? You know what I mean? And so you got to be flexible. You got to kind of find people in your life that can steer your head in a different direction. You got to be the doer. You got to find people of support that are going to help you move those things, right? So that can happen as well within an organization. But team growth, we have to remember we are one unit. I often talk about growth in a business because growth happens very quickly. I once, just the other night actually, we were moving to a new house. I didn't have anything in the cupboards. I had nothing to eat in our house, but I had a little package of muffins. And so I made the muffins. I was listening to Pandora radio. I was listening to Band Perry radio. No plug for them or anything, but this is a good station. So I was listening to it, and I put the muffins in the oven, made 5 little muffins. The muffins are sitting in the little cups. And for whatever reason, I have no idea why, I decided to sit down, turn the light on, and watch the muffins bake while listening to music to gather my thoughts. If you have not done this, I highly recommend doing it. You guys are like, who is this guy? Get him out of here. Dork. Anyway, but it was really a cool experience, you know, because I often thought I'd love to put a little camera there, videotape it, show the rise of the muffin, and then take the bake. I was like, hey, that'd be kind of fun to speed up that video. Why not do it? It only took 15 minutes, right? Well, it's 15 minutes of my life. I could slow down and catch my thoughts. And what I noticed is I was going through all the thinking, the little dough, the little batter was in there, and the batter started rising, and before I knew it, it was at the top of the cup. And I was like, holy cow, how did I miss that? I know I was just watching this thing. I was listening to music, singing some songs, so how did the muffin get to the top, right? I didn't know. I was really kind of frustrated by it. So I'm like, I'm going to watch it go into the top, like the muffin. I'm going to watch it. So I'm watching really closely, and it's bubbling, and sure enough, it went up. I saw a little bit, but also before I knew it, it was cracking on the top. I'm like, what in the world? I was watching this so focused, so diligent, and it happened right in front of me. So being frustrated, it's just about to beep, and all of a sudden these little bubbles of raspberry poison, right? They're good, but the raspberry poison starts bubbling out and starts spewing out of the top of the muffin. So before I knew it, the muffin rose, it grew really fast. I didn't even know what was happening, cracked on top, and all of a sudden the stuff was spewing out of the sides. Well, this little stuff spewing out of the sides to me was like the gaps of this talk. And it was so fitting because I had this talk put together. I'm like, that was the spew of the top. How do we stop this spew of happening, right? The gaps. Growth, accommodation, position, and story. Growth, accommodation, position, story. It all happened right there in the muffin. It's just awesome. My wife thinks I'm crazy. She married me. It's her fault. The other thing we have to ask ourselves is what area or what position in the company are we least familiar with? Is it the HR? Is it finding volunteers? Is it the accounting side? Is it the communication side? Is it marketing? Is it networking? Is it what area are we most uncomfortable in, and what do we not know enough about? Take that area and go and investigate it. Try and walk in the shoes of that individual where they are and understand it. What helps me so much in our company and understanding every area is I will take time and shadow and sit down and watch what billing does. I'll sit down and watch what somebody does at the CFO level. I'll watch what somebody does, as Dr. Baumgartner goes through the different skills and different various treatments that he does. I watch this stuff because I need to understand it, because again, if I'm the knees, I need to be flexible, but I don't know what's happening up above, then how in the world can I help this organization grow and move? And the same thing happens in our business. We need to know what we're least familiar with and then go and do it. It also can be personal growth. I didn't know anything about videography. I didn't know anything about photography. I didn't know anything about web development just 3 years ago. Well, now I built all of our websites. I've done all of our coding. All the knowledge that we have is right there in the public library. It's on YouTube. It's in Google. I mean, really, everything we ever need to know. Take that as part of personal growth and try and develop those areas, because it'll definitely help your whole team grow. But here's the big thing. Don't get caught in our self-weaknesses, right? There's a reason why self-help books, the John Maxwells and all these guys, are multi-billion-dollar industries. And there's a reason why John Maxwell can come out with 4 different titles but really say the same message over and over and over again. And the reason for it is because we get so caught up in our weaknesses. We forget to think about what are our strengths, what are we good at, what are our confidence. When we look at our weaknesses, it's good because it takes the veil off and says, wow, that's a weakness of mine. I'm not good at that. But it allows us to go and work on those weaknesses, but then find other individuals within our company or organization to help fill the gap of that weakness. Does that make sense? Is this good? Okay. So that's what we want to do. We don't want to get caught up in the weaknesses, though. We really want to develop our strengths and find others who can develop our strengths with us. Because there's 4 window panes in life. You got the window pane where, everybody knows everything about you, and you know everything about you. But then there's the areas in your life that you know about you that nobody knows about you. Then there's the areas down here that everybody else knows about you that you don't know about you. And then there's the area that just is the unknown, that nobody really knows is about to happen yet. But down here where everybody knows about you, but you don't know about it, like I've got broccoli stuck in my teeth right now, is kind of the thing that you want people to tell you, right? But you got to have those relationships in the team of somebody that can come to you and be your checks and balances to say, hey, what are you doing? You're sitting there watching muffins, dude, They got to tell you what's going on and be that self-check to take you back into reality sometimes. Up here, where the things that you know about you that nobody else knows about you, those are sometimes the areas that you just got to learn how to handle and deal with. And then the everything that everybody knows are really good too. And then once those people come into your life and they help you with those things, you have to learn how to accommodate them as well. Because you can only take so much. It's kind of like a bank account. You can put a deposit in, you can take money out. But don't expect to keep taking money out and withdrawing and overdrafting, because it comes with a fee. So make sure that you're always putting back into the community, back into volunteers, and back into other people that have invested into you. Because that will come back with interest, and it'll be very, very good and very beneficial for you as an organization. But find those people you can lean on. And then it's the radar growth. And this is the kind of tying up the growth side of things. Y'all are like, finally, Tim, it's been 20 minutes and you're finally tying up growth. But it's important because it's kind of the foundation. It's the start of this whole thing, right? But radar growth is Sun Tzu once said, know thyself and know thy enemy. Right? Know thyself and know thy enemy. First off, know thyself. Know who you are, know whose you are, know why you are, who you are. And when you take off the badge, when you take off the title, I talked about this earlier as well, when you take off that title and badge, who are you when you're standing here? When you take the coat off, when you take the tie off, when you put on the blue jeans, when you put on the baseball cap, you put on the sweatshirt, who are you? That's who you want to know. You want to know that because then you can be the best who you are. Second thing is know thy enemy. It's very important. Don't rebel the enemy. Don't hate the enemy. Encourage the enemy. Because here's the thing. Your competition is the enemy, okay? And it's not a bad thing. It's a very, very positive thing. All ships rise with the tide. If you can hope and help your competition grow, it's going to bring community awareness. I see this all the time in the insurance industry. A billboard will go up for one State Farm agent, and then another one for another State Farm agent, and over here, whose person is not even advertising, is getting referral after referral after referral after referral because they're a State Farm agent, even though they're not advertising, right? because it brings awareness. People start to investigate. And if you have a good name and a good reputation and a good calling, a good following, you can start gaining from the areas of the others and what they're doing. But that's going to come later with positioning. Okay, I'll talk about that in a little bit. But if they're growing, that's a really good thing, because that means the industry is growing. That means there's a need, and there's never a scarcity. If a person has a scarcity mindset, like there's just not enough out there for everybody, there's a problem there too. If you're never going to share a trade secret with somebody because you know it's just yours, there's a problem there too. Okay? There's no scarcity. Ask yourself this: how can I learn from the competition? Ask yourself, why do people sell out to the other programs or other people or other processes or other volunteer programs, right? What are other industries doing to stay out in front, to be leading? Don't consider your business cutting edge. Does anybody know what cutting edge even means? Cutting edge? Yet we all coin it like, wow, they're cutting edge. But we don't even know what it means. I don't even know what it means. But if we can say we're leading edge, you're out in front. You're leading, right? Okay. Anyway. Boy, it's time for a joke. It's a little serious here again. Do I do this to y'all? What philosophies could we adopt or build on? What can I do to connect or educate my clients of possible distractions before they ever become a distraction? So think of it like the old Titanic adage, right? The Titanic, there's an iceberg ahead. There was one guy who was kind of sleeping up top. Well, if he wasn't sleeping, he was more aware, or there were 3 people watching, what could have happened? You know what I mean? So if you can position it so that your volunteers know ahead of time what's going to happen throughout and what little roadblocks can come about so that they know ahead of time what's coming, then it's not so scary when it does happen. It's just like, oh, I see it coming, red flag, iceberg ahead, steer the ship, may take a little time, but we'll get around it, no big deal. We caught it ahead of time, and then there's no emergency. It's when people are caught off guard that the instant self-defense kind of pops up, and it's like, whoa, what do I do now? And so when we're team and we're working on growth, we know that stuff's going to happen. The boiling over of the muffin's going to happen. And then also, how do you market to the changing around you? You all were part of the Generation X or Generation Y, or some of you were. You're kind of hearing about the overtake of the cell phone. You're hearing about the overtake of the lack of communication. You're hearing about the different generations. Well, how do we market to those people? How do we talk to them? How do we communicate to them? How do we grow with them instead of growing away from them? How do you embrace it and bring it in? All right, gaps, growth, accommodation, position, and story. Let's talk accommodation. Y'all ready? Is this helping anybody, or is this good? Okay, good. I like affirmation, so I'm very much so an affirmation person. Definition of accommodation is fitting in with someone's wishes or demands in a helpful way. Pretty simple, right? I love studying Caesar Ritz. You all familiar with Caesar Ritz? Caesar Ritz owned and started and was the founder of Ritz-Carlton Hotels. Ritz-Carlton Hotels shook the industry when he came in because he was 100% focused on accommodation. Everything he did was all about accommodation. And he has a really great quote that starts this section off really well. It says, "Never say no when a client asks for something, even if they're asking for the moon. Because there will be plenty of time in the future to explain to them why it wasn't possible." But notice, in the future, he wasn't saying no right away. Oh, you want the moon? I'll see what I can do. I'll try and accommodate it. And so it just never was an absolute no. It was always accommodating. And if something needed to happen, he was there to try and help it happen. There's areas of accommodation that I come up with. I felt that these were all the important areas. It's business to client. There's employee to client, which is kind of that customer service, customer relationship, right? It could be same in volunteerism. Then there's business to employee, employee to business, and then there's business employee to community. Does that sum everything up? Who you can all accommodate to, right? The two I'm going to focus on are the customer service parts, this business to patient or business to client, employee to client. Those are the two that I'm going to go into. Business to client, again, we can ask ourselves a couple of questions. Is the environment in which people are coming into positive? Is the environment in which they're coming into clean? Do they feel comfortable? Is there space or is there clutter? Is it something that they want to be around? When they come there, do they want to go home right away, or do they want to stick around for a while? That accommodation, right? Is there proper equipment or tools for those individuals to have access to readily available right now that they can go ahead and start right away, start educating themselves right away, it's accommodation. It might be for the employees, it might be for the volunteers, it might be for the patients or for the clients, right? People buying your product or service. Is there an attitude of welcoming when you come in? You know, sometimes you get that person there, hi, I'll be right with you. Well, what's so important that you have to finish up there, you know what I mean? Welcome them. Hey, what's your name? How are you? Welcome. Greet them by their name if you know them. Smile. It's okay. Face doesn't break. Although in Minnesota, there are two things about Minnesotans. Number one, this is Minnesota not so excited. And this is Minnesota excited. You just never know if they're excited or not excited. So sometimes you have to get them to crack a little smile. You know? Finally, Ritz-Carlton also said, to see without looking, to hear without listening, to be attentive without being servile, to anticipate without being presumptuous is accommodation, right? So we're seeing it ahead of time without even looking for it. We're hearing it without even listening to it. We're pretty much just being attentive without being too servile, without watching every move they're making. And then finally, we're anticipating without being presumptuous. Kind of goes back to the whole networking thing again. You know, we're talking about going onto somebody's Facebook page ahead of time and looking at all their information to kind of get a gauge about what you want to talk about the next time you meet up with them, for an appointment or whatnot. Sometimes you can be so into it and you bring too much information to the table that they're like, what? How do you know that? You know, this is uncomfortable and awkward. And so, you can kind of change the perspective a little bit when you do that too much. But a little bit is okay. So that's all right. That's accommodating. Employee accommodation toward clients and patients, employees to clients, employees to patients. This is really important. This is actually like what first got me originally thinking about this stuff, because this is what I really was like, wow, this is powerful. As a company, we need to accommodate each of our clients, kind of their motivation, right? What is their motive? How do we motivate them, keep them clients, keep them excited about whatever they're doing? Even volunteers, how do we keep volunteers excited about what they're doing? What does that motivation look like? Well, there's a little formula for motivation, and it's as simple as this. Needs times belief equals motivation. And at any point in time, if this is a 1 times 10, let's say you're really good at belief building, then the motivation is only 10. But if you're not supporting their needs, but you're giving them a ton of belief, they're only a 10. If you come in here and you give them the same thing, 10 needs, 1 belief or 2 belief, let's just say 10, 2 belief, their motivation is a 20. But if we can balance this all out, we can give them 5, just 5. We don't have to go crazy far and above and beyond. Now they're at 25. They're going to be motivated. You don't have to over-deliver in belief. You don't have to over-deliver in needs. Just even, right? And you can be very powerful.
Can you explain what the belief is?
Exactly.
Supporting needs and then...
Yep, that's what I'm doing right now. No, you're okay, because it's true. And it's the big...
Fast, I thought, oh no, I'm going to miss it.
Yeah, I won't let you miss it, I promise. You won't miss the boat. So here's what we do. We accommodate their needs. How do we accommodate their needs? We ask, we listen, and we observe. We ask, we listen, and observe. Sometimes the questions that somebody asks me about something isn't the very question that they even want. They're just asking it in hopes that some way along the way I'll get to what they're really asking me. Sometimes they'll just look at you and you know that there's something that they need to get to. My wife often does this when I get home, and it's like, I just know I better empty that dishwasher or I'm toast. You know what I mean? It's like, if I don't get to that, I'm done. In that, when we observe, sometimes those questions, I like to ask, what brought you to that conclusion, or what brought you to that question? Why would what areas in that are you looking for? Please clarify that for me. Or, sometimes just looking for clarification, because sometimes you got to go a little bit deeper in that conversation to find out truly what those needs are. Oftentimes somebody will give you a reason why they can't volunteer, and it's truly not the reason. And then you kind of steer around and say, okay, if that wasn't a case, then what would it be? Could we get around that? And they'd say yes, and then they'd tell you another thing, and oftentimes that too is not the reason. But then if you kind of ask them what brought them to that conclusion, all of a sudden they tell you about something else, and you're like, hark, if I would have only known your grandfather was in the hospital, I'd follow up with you in a month. You know what I mean? And sometimes you can kind of get beyond what they're looking for in their needs. So that's the need side, just being able to ask, listen, and observe. Then what's the belief side of things? It's affirmations, building expectation, educating, and showing results. So what do these all do? Affirmations, for me, lend me support. So if I know that I've got your supportive attention right now, and you've affirmed that, I feel good about what I'm saying because I know that it's teaching somebody something. It's confidence, right? So that's coming in there. And then when we get into like building expectation, we're just giving them guidance. And can you imagine going down to, let's say I want to go to San Diego. But from here to San Diego, they aren't giving me a map, and there's no road signs and mile markers. So I don't know what exit to get on, what exit to get off. All I know is I need to drive southwest. I'm only going to get so far before I finally get frustrated and turn myself around, or I'm going to finally get frustrated, ask for help, and somebody else can very easily influence me at that time and steer me somewhere else. Look, here's a map, here's everything you need. Okay, Colorado sounds good, I'm this far anyway. You know what I mean? And same with your volunteers, same with the people that you're talking to all the time. If you don't give them the proper tools and the guidance and the counseling or the coaching to get to where that destination is for them, whatever that need is, then how in the world do they need to know where they're going to go or where they're going to end up or what that outcome's going to look like? So we often talk about that. Education builds confidence because, again, competence is confidence. I don't need to go any further into that. And then results just shows proof. It may not be a result of the end, but a result of midway point, a result of, somewhere a quarter of the way through it might be a perfect time to show results. Look at where you were. Look at how far you've come. The muffin's risen just to the surface layer. Did you realize it just got there? Holy cow, no, I didn't even notice that. How'd that happen? Well, good, you're this far along the trail. Let's keep going. You know what I mean? So that's really exciting too. So that's your needs, and that's your beliefs, all wrapped up together. Very good. All right. Position, G.A.P.S. Growth, accommodation, position, and story. Position. What is position? Best example I have, and I was caught up in it the other year when I went to Hawaii. I was going to be there for a couple of weeks, so I didn't want to look like shaved head, burnt head, tourist, white skin, whatever. I wanted to go there and have some look of Hawaii. So I went online, and I went to Google search, and I said, surf hairstyles. I'm going to grow out my hair, and I'm going to get a surf hairstyle. And at the time, I was using gel to style my hair, which it is today. And all I could see was hairstyle, 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 Garnier Fruit Cheese surf hair. Hairstyle, hairstyle, Garnier Fruit Cheese hairstyle, 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 Garnier Fruit Cheese hairstyle, $3.99, hairstyle, groove. Like, wow, found this nice hairstyle. This is what I want. Got my hair cut. I'm like, I need something to style it. Garnier Fruit Cheese surf hair product. That sounds good. I'll use that. It was only $3.99. I didn't even know I needed the product, and I bought the product before I ever even needed to know I needed it because they positioned themselves in front of me to show me I needed it. I often talk about Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner. So Wile E. and the Coyote, very good at getting out in front of the Roadrunner, positioning all his stuff, sets it all down, and all of a sudden Roadrunner comes along, goes, stops, maybe, takes off. Rocket comes through, doesn't work. Often the Coyote goes on to something else. Coyote, if he would have known, he could have tried, failed, adjusted. He could have tried it a second time or attempted just a few more times, but he only tried it one time, expected to get the Roadrunner, never got him, and just quit altogether and started something new. But the problem was he was so fast into new tools and what he was trying to work with that he never had time to even learn the tools that he was given already in the first place. Sometimes the very tools we have are the tools that are going to work, but we just fail to learn how to execute all of the tools that we have at our disposal. Oftentimes we get tool constipation because there's so many of them, you just kind of freeze and you go, I don't know what to do with all these tools. There's just so many good tools. What do? Start with the pipe wrench. Start there. Learn it. Understand that if you turn it one way, you strip out your pipe. If you turn it the other way, it turns the knob. It's that simple. So, Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner, he was good at positioning himself. He didn't know how to use the tools. If you learn how to use your tools, you get out in front of those volunteers in areas that you want, you can sometimes catch them before they even know that they need your product or your volunteerism. Where is your client before they even know that they need you most? What are they thinking in bed when they're laying there going, gosh, if there was just something, if there was something out there. Just came in from a hard day of work, tired, I'm exhausted. Just something bubbly, flavorful. Psst. Ah, yes, I need a soda pop. You know what I mean? Pepsi. Oh, I could use Pepsi. You know what I mean? It's the same idea, but what are they thinking about you just before they absolutely know they need your service, your volunteerism, your product, your whatever? And then get yourself in front of them and be that to them and grab their emotion and pull them in, right? And be in front of them enough to where they'll want it. How much time do I have left here?
Yep, 10 minutes.
10 minutes, perfect.
8.
8 minutes. I'm going to roll right into this. Oftentimes we talk about the story. Position, I think I covered it pretty well there. So we got growth, accommodation, position, and story. What's the story? I often think of Ellen DeGeneres, right? Ellen DeGeneres, crazy lady, but golly is she fun. And kind of levitate towards her and watch, like what she's doing, and I like to study her. She can take a strawberry and make that strawberry the most interesting piece of fruit I have ever seen in my entire life. And she's good at it, the way she talks about it, the way she uses the strawberry, whatever it might be. She can be really funny, and she can make that strawberry very talented. She can also take an individual or a person and make that person look like an absolute star. Jimmy Fallon can do this as well. How many of you like Jimmy Fallon or watch Jimmy Fallon, right? And why do we like him? We like him because he does exactly what he said when he did his opening skit. His opening skit was brilliant on his very first show. He came out on stage just by himself, and he said, you know what, here's some cue cards, here's the guys, here's the band, here's what we have, and what my goal is here is just to give you a good laugh just before your head hits the pillow and you fall asleep. And if I can do that, I've achieved what I wanted to achieve. Let's get this show started. And he runs back behind the curtain, comes out, and the show starts, and he's clapping, he's all excited. And what did he do? He brought us into the story, right? And so now all these audience viewers that have never seen Jimmy Fallon in their life saw his opening show, went, this guy is funny. He brought me into his story. I feel like I know him. I like him. I trust this guy that he's going to make me laugh before I go to sleep. He's got some funny skits. He's really good with Justin Timberlake. Hashtag he's awesome. You know what I mean? So he's really good at bringing the story up and pulling people into the story. And that's what we got to do in our business and our volunteerism is study those people that are really good at creating that following and creating that story. And what are they doing that people love them so much? What is it that makes them so relatable? What is it that makes people want to be around them? And all they do is they just make people interesting. They take the show off themselves and they turn it back to other people to make other people feel good about who they are, which is cool. But the story is the greatest need. The story creates a following and breeds culture. The story builds belief. Again, back to that belief. And then it also brings hope. The story is transparent. It's relatable. The story cultivates emotion. And the story is expressive, and it paints a picture. There's two sides of the brain. There's the logical side of the brain, then there's the emotional side of the brain. And when we have an idea, I'm thirsty, it takes something in the emotional side to trigger us to go across the gap, to bridge that gap between the brain, the left side and the right side. And when we can go from logic over to emotion, whether we hear a sound, whether we see something, smell something, taste something, we know that it's somewhere over here in the emotion. Once we capture that, now that person starts kind of investigating, seeking, looking around. They find somebody that they can trust, they adhere to them, and it takes that person holding their hand to walk them back across the bridge into the logical side of the brain to say, this is a good idea. And when they say, it sounds good, it feels good, it must be good, then you've got a great volunteer and you've got somebody that's sold out to your organization. And how do you do that? With the story. Where are you painting that picture? How are you bringing them across that bridge or that gap to paint that story? You've got a blank canvas of the mind. We can teach people how to think. It's not about telling them, hey, they think this way, so I got to talk to them this way. No, we teach people how to think. I mean, McDonald's did this really well with the Golden Arch. You see that thing and you instantly salivate. You know what I mean? Even though you want it or not, you just salivate. And that's because of that color, that arch, and the promotion they had done in the past has let us just instantly believe some of those things. If you all took a lemon and you held it in front of you, all of you hold up your hand right now, like this. I'm going to throw each of you lemons, and you all just catching them, right? You're catching these lemons. I'm throwing them way to the back. Catch the lemon. Catch the lemon. Catch the lemon. Catch the lemon. Lemon. Hold it in front of you. Take your finger, your knife. Cut the lemon, a little slice. Cut a little slice and set your lemon down. Take the slice out. Hold it out in front of you. Smell the lemon. Smells good, citrusy. And now take it slowly and take a bite into your lemon. Put the lemon down. Most of you, not all of you, but most of you will feel saliva in your mouth right now. Most of you will feel that there was saliva that built up. What is that? That's the emotion we have. That's something that is so ingrained in us. The citrus of that lemon came through in just the imagination. How can you create that in your volunteers? How can you pull that out of somebody to make them salivate over your business? How do you invite others into your business? And how exciting does it sound? Yeah, I've got a volunteer program. It's pretty cool. People get together with some kids and hang out, throw a football. You like football? We play football. Sometimes someone gets hurt, but it only lasts a little while. But we have lunch, and the kids love lunch. It's fun. You should volunteer with us. It's fun. It's great time. Versus, you know what? Have you ever experienced the child holding your hand, but when he grabs your pinky, it's just fingers around your pinky or 2 fingers? That little child needs a companion. They don't have one right now. They don't have someone to call daddy. But they hold your hand and it's just 2 fingers, and they look up at you, 2 little beady eyes, and they say, "Can you come play with me? Please, will you play with me?" What's more exciting? Come volunteer with us. Get your little with you. You know what I mean? Come volunteer with us where you're going to make a difference in that child's life. You're going to change them for a good thing. It brings emotion to me. Poor little needs a man. Here's some quotes from some people that, and I'm going to wrap up with this and we're done. Some quotes that people shared about stories. There's a guy from Facebook, or a gal, Sheryl Sandberg, executive at Facebook. She says, "Sharing personal stories makes you feel vulnerable, but it's that vulnerability that resonates with others to connect you to other people." Makes sense? There's a guy, Nobel Peace Prize winner, G.A.P.S, he's a photojournalist. He says, "You can tell a story without words. Sometimes the impact is much greater than with them." It's true. Flaws make stories interesting and more relatable. Don't worry about polishing every little detail of your story. Just tell it, even the naughty bits. Actually, especially the naughty bits. Who do you think said that? Mr. Richard Branson. Owns Virgin Mobile and many other businesses now. Great storytelling brings together a desperate community through shared experiences, making one individual feel part of something bigger than themselves. Mr. Bruce Springsteen. Whether you know it or not, everyone has a story to tell. If you approach conversations with an open mind, again, take your business, your title, take everything off. If you approach a conversation with an open mind, you'll find gems of interesting things about them. Ellen DeGeneres. Create an experience worth telling and worth telling, and if you want, they will spread your story. And that was Steve Jobs. And I just think that ties everything together. Create an experience worth telling, and they'll spread the story for you. Bring people into what you do. Be open-minded to be truly, truly understanding of what the individuals are in your organization. Have an interest, very, very pure interest in those individuals. Get to know them, and then help them be part of your story. But also, grow yourself, accommodate others, position yourself to put up the flag to show that your story counts and that matters. Be that beacon of light, and the light will shine back on you. Thank you. God bless.